Last month, I flew out of state for a mediation for a child who was injured at birth, and the life care plan was about $20 million. His mom was a single mom. Dad had left, was no longer in the picture. She was unable to work because of her child's condition. They were basically couch surfing. They were living off of the child's SSI. And we're sitting in the mediation room and we're going back and forth, and the lawyers are negotiating, and they get into a range that they feel is, acceptable, or, a level that they can start talking with their clients about and strongly considering. And we started talking about special needs trusts and structured settlements. And while we're sitting there, Mom says, what am I going to get? What am I going to get in my pocket for all that I've had to endure since my child was born, for all the sleepless nights, for all the pain and suffering? And unfortunately, this mom just did not have her own claim, which seems to be the case in many of our birth injury cases around the country. Parents just don't have their own claims, or they can't get a parental allocation because giving them that parental allocation would end up jeopardizing the child's SSI and Medicaid benefits. And those are questions that I get asked very often. And sometimes I get involved in the case after it's settled or after mediation, and I start talking with the families about the various settlement tools that are available to them and the various laws across the country as they relate to minor settlements. And, often we're incorporating structured settlements and special needs trusts into our planning. And for those of you who don't know, a special needs trust is a special type of trust that is meant to protect certain types of government benefits, including SSI and various types of Medicaids. A special needs trust is supposed to be, it's called a sole beneficiary trust. And the trust is supposed to be used for the sole benefit of the injured minor. It's allowed to be used for their health, their education, their maintenance, and their support. Parents across the country have a duty to support their minor children. But the realities when we're living in this world of, these catastrophically injured minors are, there's often just a single parent, and they are caring for that child, and they can't do anything else. They can't be gainfully employed because of their child's medical needs, or, their child's getting kicked out of school every other day, and they don't have childcare for backup. And so these cases go to settle, and we start talking about, these multi-million-dollar settlements. And often I have the parents come to me and they just feel like they've totally been left in the dark, or, that their needs don't matter. And we start talking about how the special needs trust really can only be used for their minor child. So when I'm settlement planning, something that I find to be a really important part of my job is educating the families on how can these tools that are, kind of what we have to use in the case of a disabled minor, going to actually work for them to improve their lives as a family. And, one of the things that I talk about often is a caregiver allowance. While the trusts, again, can't just give the mom money, or, mom can't just go out and have the spa day that she really does deserve. But you know what? She can be paid by a third-party employment service to provide care for her injured minor. And by doing that, we're able to get a little bit of additional income into mom's hands so that she can have some of the breaks she needs. A lot of the parents I'm working with, they're just so exhausted, they just can't even think clearly because, they're up around the clock caring for their child. And with these parents, I share, we could bring in a caregiver to care for your child. Or, you could care for your child during the week and get a salary for doing so. And then on the weekends, you can use money in the child's trust to go hire a caregiver to pay for them. And you can take some of the money that you've now earned from your job for caring for your child and take that to do something that gives you joy. A lot of the families that I'm working with, they also don't have stable housing, unfortunately. And a special needs trust can purchase a home. Now, the trust is going to be the owner of the home, so the home's going to be in the child's name, and there is a risk that if the child passed away and there wasn't enough money in the trust to pay back Medicaid, that home could be taken from them. But we try to make sure there's enough cash in the trust that doesn't happen. But at least we can assure the families that as long as their child is alive, that they can have a stable home. And then when the parent is gone, that child is going to continue to have that home for them. We also talk about how we can purchase a car for the families. We talk about using an ABLE account, which is Achieving Better Life Experience account, and how sometimes combining a special needs trust with an ABLE account provides kind of the most liquidity for the family and helps meet the most needs. So I think a really important part of settlement planning when I'm working with the families and we're talking about the law and the fact that a minor's settlement proceeds must be preserved for when they're an adult, or, we have to use a special needs trust in order to protect these really critical government benefits. It's really important to think about their parents and their lives and how they've been impacted, and how can we really make the lives better for the families within the scope of the law. And that's something that I prioritize in my settlement planning. And I just wanted to share with you all a little bit today that there are ways that we can provide for the families while remaining compliant within the law. And hopefully by doing so, we all walk away with happier clients and better outcomes.